The next question, I'm going to skip ahead because this one kind of might get a little bit answered in that last one. But
Sure.
best chest workouts, exercises, supersets, and I know that the person who sent this in is probably hoping for this awesome exercise that I've seen that is just fantastic and does everything it can to blow up that chest and make you look superhuman. The one thing I've found, and this is coming from someone who spent a lot of my initial years using a lot of intensity techniques like drop sets, supersets, pre-exhaust techniques. I did everything for the chest, and I was able to grow a pretty good chest. I was actually, it's still probably my strongest body part. Thank you. Still something that I do enjoy working. I like training it. I'm also someone who has had completely cooked rotator cuffs for the last 6 or 7 years, and purely that's from overtraining, too much intensity, not enough recovery. So would you say, when asking about best chest workouts, would it be more about the mind-muscle connection on the exercise? Mm-hmm. Would it be individualized to the person, or is there a set routine or set exercise that you would recommend? Because the first thing I would instantly say is, hey, whatever you can do to get the best stimulus on your chest. And I know some people really struggle and their shoulders really kick in, their delts kick in. Yeah. But yeah, what do you think?
Okay, so guys, there's a couple of things there's a really good way to like limit or eliminate exercises that aren't working for you. Okay, so first, what we want to do is, if we're doing a couple of exercises of this certain exercise, let's say bench press, for example, are we getting a good pump? Is there, like, after a couple of sets, can we feel that pump coming on? If that is happening, guys, if the chest is pumping up from that particular exercise, give it that section a tick. Okay, now, are we getting a good mind-muscle connection there? Like when we're working that exercise through full range of motion, are we getting a good mind-muscle connection? Can we really feel that muscle working? Is there a lot of stimulus happening there? If there is, give it another tick. And is the muscle disruption happening? So a day or two after that chest workout, those exercises that you've just done, are we feeling a little bit sore? Like, is our chest, maybe it's not sore, but it just doesn't feel like 100%. And I'm not talking about joints and connective tissues and such. I'm talking about the actual musculature, our actual chest, not our rotator cuffs and such, not our deltoids, not our like connective tissue in our elbows and stuff. Is the chest like feeling fatigued? Is it feeling sore? If we can tick things off like that, and then we can present, like, if we can do more load and then still tick those boxes, if we can do more sets, so more volume, and still tick those boxes, then individually you've found yourself a fantastic exercise. Yeah. So because for me, the cable fly may be a fantastic one where I'm getting good muscular stimulus, good mind-muscle connection, and then the prior days I'm sore. But maybe for Slater, that's not the case. True. Maybe dumbbell flies are a better exercise for him to get that muscle stimulus, that mind-muscle connection, and that good disruption. Because at the end of the day, guys, it doesn't matter what anybody's recommending, it's what individually works best for your physiology.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for people who are quite new to training, and I know the first thing I did when I was 19 years old is stack as many plates as I could and rep out these horrible 4-rep maxes with plenty of help from old mate doing bicep curls. But I would recommend that if you are quite new to training, just drop the weight, drop the ego, try to get that connection first at a really light weight, and then increase the weight, kind of like exactly like
what because said. Like what Slater's saying, the most important thing, especially for a beginner, guys, is not weight, is not the exercise. Whatever you do decide to do, the most important thing is your technique. We are working on the technique of the exercise and the range of motion being the fullest that it can possibly be.
Yeah, for sure. I know on that note, there was one thing that I believe Mike Israetel said that I read many years ago. Something that he found great results in with himself and others was when you have your chest workout, maybe trying a compound, iso compound kind of grouping of exercises. So compound being your chest and shoulders and triceps, so your bench presses, your dumbbell presses, a lot of those big kind of movers, and then going to an isolation exercise. So, maybe your flies, your pec deck, something that's really going to isolate the pecs, and then doing another compound. That was something he recommended, but like you said, everyone's going to be different. I did really enjoy doing that, and I found really good results, personally speaking. Okay, I'm going to go back to our questions. This is a super good one that I'll be honest, I had no idea about. And it's how to increase your metabolism when you either have a slow one or have a medical condition that slows it down. And I personally can't speak for medical conditions because I'm not a doctor. But in general, do you think people give too much respect to metabolism being a key factor in whether they put on size, lose fat, or do you think metabolism is a very valid reason and should be played with?
I actually think what everybody needs to understand is the metabolism is it's an adapter. So our body, in a physical sense, adapts to the stresses that we present to it. Okay, so let's say, for example, our metabolism is metabolizing the food that's coming through the system. And let's say it's metabolizing all that food in regards to a dieting phase. So those dieting calories that we're intaking, it's metabolizing all that food. Well, a lot of people actually think that the metabolism speeds up because we're regularly eating and we're in this dieting phase and such. Well, no, guys. What actually happens is the speed of our metabolism is kicking along and metabolizing all of that dieting food, those lessened calories, and we're getting those drops in weight because obviously, like Slater mentioned earlier, calories in versus calories out. We've worked out our calorie deficit and our metabolism is metabolizing all that food. But what does tend to occur, guys, and dieting is a stressor to the body, and the metabolism is part of the body, and it's metabolizing the food, but after a while, well, it gets used to that stressor. And it's like, well, you know what? I've adapted now. It's no longer the stressor that it was to my body. I'm actually going to slow down. And now our metabolism's not working as hard, and people are seeing these stalls in their weight loss, and they're like, well, what's going on? I'm eating really regularly, and everybody said if I eat like 6 to 7 meals a day, my metabolism is just going to be kicking along and kicking along and kicking along.
Drink water every hour.
Yeah, it's just that's not how the body physiologically works, guys. Like our body adapts, unfortunately, because I wish it didn't, because then I would only have to do 1 to 2 sets in the gym a week and I'd be the biggest man in the world. Unfortunately, it's not how it works. So then we need to then present that new stressor, which unfortunately means potentially cutting some of our calories. So then the metabolism starts working a bit harder again because it's not metabolizing as much food, but you're feeding it a different stressor now. So it starts working harder again. It's like a lot of people will say, well, I'm not losing weight anymore, so I'll just start eating more and my metabolism will speed up. Well, no, what you're actually doing is increasing your calorie intake to now maybe you're maintaining weight, or now maybe you're in a calorie surplus, and that's going obviously against what our goal ultimately is. So at the end of the day, yeah, I do think people fall into that whole metabolism trap a lot, and actually researching and doing a little bit of study about what the metabolism is and what it does can then hopefully correct that way of thinking for you guys out there.
I think people, it's actually the other way that I hear mostly is that, I can't put on size. It doesn't matter how much I eat, I can't put on size. And then you break down what they're eating in a day and you're like, you don't eat that much. You think you do, but calories in, calories out, and you may have to make a change. Even if you do eat 3,500 calories, which for someone like me seems outrageous, that may be your maintenance. So you're going to have to up it even further. As for a medical condition, I don't know about you, but like I said, it's not. I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor.
That's definitely not my specialty, guys. So in regards to like metabolisms in medical sense, it's probably best that you consult the professionals.
Yep. What are the risks of fasting and carb restrictions before shows? And I think they're referring to, I guess, energy levels, performance, which we kind of went on before. We were talking about how carbs are important for energy.
For sure.
I know that for myself, well, for all of us who are looking to be the most aesthetic we can be, we're always trying to lean up for show day and be as shredded as possible for show day, particularly if it's a big show coming up. I tend to take more a performance approach. I know that you go a little bit more bodybuilder, and you have your own protocol for looking lean on show day.
Yeah.
What would you say? I guess my question is, we kind of know the risks of fasting are less energy, lesser performance.
Yeah, most definitely.
What do you do to still look lean for show day, but still be able to go at a high level?
Okay. So potentially I try to just eat the same way that I eat every day. A lot of people talk about like manipulating maybe sodium and maybe manipulating water, manipulating our macronutrients and such to suit. Recently, I've been doing like a lot of studies and such, and I've actually been playing around with water loading or like. So what happens? This is kind of like a peaking method, guys, for like bodybuilders. And yeah, it's like a method where I'm ensuring that my body gets used to something and then taking that away, and then my body potentially still adapting to that way that it was previously to then potentially get my best look. If I actually really wanted to go in depth again into peaking protocols, we'd be here all day.
Sure.
But like Slater was saying, like it's quite risky, like fasting and really restricting our carbs and such, because performance isn't going to be there. A lot of people will tend to maybe like ease up on the water and such like during that day. I know sometimes I do for a little bit of a quick fix, or I'll eat like a fair chunk of sodium and stuff, especially for my matches, to try and like draw out those waters and such to kind of tighten up. But it's most certainly something that I'm still working on, and it's most certainly an area that I'm still really trying to educate myself on in regards to like peaking protocols and how to look best on show day. But it is potentially something that I will be coming out with soon in regards to water peaking, and that will be really beneficial for you pro wrestlers out there.
I was actually planning on having another episode where we go through like a whole show day of like what we eat and that kind of thing. So we'll definitely have more at that point. But the next question is actually, I think we kind of answered it previously. Is carb cycling an effective way to maintain size, and what other options are there to gain size while cardio training? So they're kind of two separate options. You spoke before about when you are on limited calories, putting your carbohydrates before and after a workout, which is somewhat similar to carb cycling. If you're not sure what carb cycling is, it's making sure that on your training days, you're consuming more calories, which means on your rest days, you're going to have to consume less to get that balance correct. So you're still eating the same carbs per week, the same macronutrients per week, rather than per day, as I do. But yeah, you see, you're getting the same deficit per week. So you would say that is effective?
Certainly, certainly. It's most certainly an option. A lot of people do tend to want to increase their calories on their training days and then restrict on their rest days. And that's potentially, it can potentially be beneficial. Essentially, what I would obviously be doing, and it is something that I have been coached, like previously had a coach and it was their method as well. I would potentially have 200 calories more each day on my training days, and those 200 calories were always like evolved around my training sessions, pre and post workout. And
so
then
rather than carb cycling, you were calorie cycling,
as
well as
essentially,
carb cycling.
And those extra calories that I was getting on those training days were going towards carbohydrates for that better performance and recovery from my training sessions. And then essentially on my rest days, my calories were tapered back quite largely, and I then kind of didn't really look forward to those rest days. I mean, sure, I was going to be out of the gym, and that's a wonderful thing because I can then spend time with my friends and my family, and that's always a lovely notion in itself, but I didn't look forward to eating substantially less food. So maybe the benefits are there for you. Maybe you feel like your workouts are of a higher level, and that's fantastic. And if you want to take that approach, again, it's an individual thing. It's if it's specific to you and if it works, go for it. But I don't see any potential benefits to doing that rather than just maintaining the same calorie intake on a day-to-day basis.
Fantastic. And I guess the second part of that question was what other options are there to gain size while cardio training? You just have to realize cardio is a way to burn more calories to change that balance of calories in, calories out. So, I mean, that's all cardio is. If you want cardio for your performance, okay, that's a complete different topic altogether. But the more cardio you do, depending on what it is, you're going to burn more calories. So just get the balance right, and you'll get there. This was an interesting question. I spoke to you about it before because I wanted to see if you had any topic knowledge. It's a very new topic in the world, and that is what specific risks in terms of concussion and lactic acid production are there. And that was in regards to, I believe, going on a low carb diet or a keto diet. I'm pretty sure. I know from my very limited research, there have been some studies recently into fasting and ketosis being ways to recover from brain injury. But it's still a very new topic, and I don't know much about it. I haven't had a lot of concussions, but do your own research. There's a lot out there. But on the other side of things I found interesting was you often hear in MMA when they weight cut really drastically, and they're limiting their food intake massively, they're limiting their water intake, they're getting all the liquid out of their system, and often they say that that's increased the risk of concussion. And you hear the commentator saying, oh, he got knocked out, he had a really bad weight cut. So it's interesting that it can be so bad for apparently increasing the risk of concussion, but then after a concussion, a similar fasting protocol can be good for it. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that. But
no, it was actually when you did bring it up with me, I was so taken back by it. And it's something that I do intend on having a look into, because I'd actually never heard about the risk of greater potential to have a concussion due to such extreme cutting phases. So, and that's just that sounds like such a fascinating thing to get into and understand why our whatever's going on inside us physiologically occurs such a thing to happen. So I look forward to having a read into that subject.
Absolutely. Only got a couple questions left. So should a nutrition plan be as important as reps, training, and character development? Seems like a pretty obvious answer. And both of us, I guess, being very pro looking good, performing good, the athletic side of things, it's something we've always been interested in.
Yeah.
We value it highly in our trainees, so absolutely.
Yeah.
We're meant to be athletes. We perform at a super high level. We're meant to. Well, we should look good. We should look like we can damage our opponents for the most part. So me personally, I would say it's as important as training and character development, and eventually you get to the point where it's more important than character development and training. You should be trying to always improve your physique in some way. Of course, if you are not a an aesthetic wrestler, everyone always goes back to the Dusty Rhodes example. Hey, that's a different story, but Dusty Rhodes could still go. He could still have an hour-long match. So I find a lot of people these days really shy away from dieting, nutrition, and training. And I often see the excuses that it doesn't really matter. As long as my promos are good and character's good and whatever. I think you're kind of kidding yourself there. I think if you can't go for an hour without blowing up, there's got to be a bit of a change, because that's a major part of our performance.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
No, I think Slater's actually he's answered everything there as I would have answered. So yeah, no, I would most certainly be prioritizing that aspect of our wrestling as well as everything else that we're trying to optimize.
Yep, and it's a scary thing. I know it's overwhelming, particularly when you don't have that knowledge, and it's a long-term process, but very valid part of our training, and just stick with it. It all starts to make sense eventually. I mean, I'm still learning. I've been lifting weights and dieting for close to 15 years now, if not longer. And I feel like I only really got a good grasp of everything 5 years ago. So it is a long-term process. Our last question, which I am very, very indifferent about asking, and this is from our friend Brendan Vink.
Hey!
I don't know where he's been lately. Probably sitting on someone's couch.
Yeah, just off the radar.
But why can't I just eat pizza all the time? And my answer to that is, you can, and you know this, and I hate you.
As well, Brendan, I'd just like to throw in the comment. 2 words. Drew McIntyre. He'll get it.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Well, that's it. All our questions done. We're bang on the 50-minute mark, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to split this into 2 parts. But it gives me more content anyway. We have more episodes coming out in the future with Marcus Pitt from Progress 365. Anyone who's interested in getting an online dieting or training service, coaching service from you, where can they find you online? How do they contact you?
Most certainly. So the 2 best social media platforms to find Progress 365 are on our Facebook page, Progress 365, and on our Instagram page, Progress 365. Very easy to find. Just type it on in and get in contact with us at info@progress-365.com and ask any questions, any tips, any advice. And if you guys just want to have a chat or are chasing a small bit of advice and such, just hit us up on our instant messages on any of our social media platforms and I'd be happy to help you out.
Guys, he's being very modest. He is in charge of many of the top Australian pro wrestlers, as well as some of the top world pro wrestlers in some of the biggest organizations. So get on it. If you're serious about your training and nutrition, if you've got no idea where to start, or if you're already at an advanced level and you want to take your game to the next level, get to it. There's no time to waste. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I look forward to more chats. We got a lot more coming. We're going to be talking about recovery. We're going to be talking about sleep, all sorts of different things that are so important to our training and our improvement. So we'll catch you guys soon.